Hello, hello. All right, are we just about ready to get things started?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I see so many of my friends in the chat. Hey, Stacy. Hey, Eric. Hey, Kendra. Hey, Dee. I'm excited y'all are all joining us today. Hey, Barrett.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. It's an entrepreneurial conversation. I know it's a lot of great entrepreneurs out there, so man, we definitely appreciate the time you're taking to join this conversation. So, well, let's get it started. Welcome to the Resolve series, a new virtual event series from Nexus, Louisiana, aimed at creating action-oriented conversations about equity and entrepreneurship. I'm Milton. I'm your moderator. I'm a community organizer, media personality. You know, I embrace my entrepreneurship in entertainment and education. And I'm excited to be on this call. You know, it's a great thing that's happening here. Definitely can't forget to shout out our sponsors for making this happen. ExxonMobil and SLT Technology Inc. This event and other work of Nexus Louisiana is made possible through the generous support of those sponsors. So definitely want to take some time out to give a shout out to ExxonMobil and SLT Technology Inc. Today's conversation is a real loose format when it comes to it's a roundtable discussion. We're just engaging in conversation here, just real authentic, just real personal. So just everyone, we can relax, we can ask questions, however we need to. You can ask questions. If you look at the bottom of the screen, it says ask a question. You can add questions there and engage throughout the series, and then also afterwards, we're going to have a designated time for Q&As where we actually talk about those questions here on the stage. So please engage there. Also, there's a chat on the side where you can engage with other participants, possibly some of the panelists. And yeah, so that's how you can engage throughout the panel. Also, this is one of many conversations moving forward. This is not the first and it's not the last. But, we wanted to create this stage. Nexus Louisiana created this stage to have this open dialogue. And we're going to continue this series on September the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th. So please, if you want to register early on those, go to nexusla.org/resolve to register. Man, people are really active in this chat. I'm loving it. Yeah. All right. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. So, like I said, discussion is just the beginning. And if you want to take action, whether you want to be a part of the solution or whether you need, you feel like you may need help and resources for your own business or yourself, please use the I want to get involved or I need help button below so you can take action and get involved and get connected with Nexus Louisiana. So to kick off things, I want to welcome to the stage Genevieve, our president and CEO of Nexus Louisiana. So how are you? What's going on?
I'm great. I'm so glad everybody's joining us today. I keep seeing more people in the chat. Thank y'all all for joining this conversation.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about, why you decided to produce Resolve under Nexus Louisiana?
Sure. Thanks. So again, I am Genevieve Silverman. I'm president and CEO of Nexus Louisiana. And we worked really hard over the end of last year, beginning of this year, to craft a new strategic plan. And one of our 4 pillars in our strategic plan was to create an inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem with our partners in the ecosystem. And our mission as Nexus Louisiana is to accelerate the growth of high potential technology enabled companies by providing them with coaching, capital, and connections. So we're doing a lot of work in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. In addition to operating the Louisiana Technology Park here in Baton Rouge, we also do other work in the community. In 2016, we launched the BizTech Challenge, which is a technology-based business program for students enrolled at historically Black colleges across Louisiana. And we've been running that for 5 years now. we were able to do it virtually this summer, but we're not able to have our big pitch competition like we usually do at the Bayou Classic. I see some of my BizTech friends in the chat, and I'm sad I'm not going to get to see everybody in November. We also run Baton Rouge Entrepreneurship Week. We host Pitch BR, quarterly pitch series. And several years ago, we spun off Innovation Catalyst, which is a seed capital fund working to invest in startups here in Louisiana. And so one of the things we did this summer was put out an equity and entrepreneurship statement. And we did that because even though we're doing some work in this space, we recognize and understand that there are a lot of disparities and inequities in our society, particularly as they affect our work to accelerate the growth of high potential tech-enabled companies. And we know that there's a lot of work still to do. I just want to point out some stats that we had in our statement. In the U.S. today, there are a lot of glaring inequities in our tech-based entrepreneurial ecosystem. In 2015, only 1% of funded startup founders were Black, even though they made up 11% of our overall U.S. population. Black employees fill only 2% of senior positions at venture capital firms. And you might imagine that those two stats are related a little bit. And then also in terms of STEM and our STEM occupational roles, Black employees make up only about 11.9% of all workers. In computer and math, they make up 11.9% of all workers, but only 7.9% in computer and math occupations. So those are just some key stats that we want to just keep in our heads as we're going through this conversation. And we created this series so that we can all come together as an ecosystem and just get real about what the problems and challenges are and how we can work together to create some action items to solve them. We know that this topic is complex and potentially emotionally charged, so we wanted to create a supportive and open platform with this event series to have an honest and open dialogue with the entire community. And we hope that collectively we can come out with some final constructive action steps to help make our entrepreneurial community more inclusive and supportive of everyone who does have that drive and passion to bring their ideas to life. So that's what we're doing here today.
I love it. It's beautiful. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing at Nexus Louisiana.
Yeah, so Boo, I know you're going to introduce our panelists pretty soon, but before we do that, wanted to thank you for being our MC today, and wanted to have you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your work in the community.
Oh, okay. The work that I do in the community, I believe it's three different tiers. That's the way I like to explain it. In the local community, I create different events and initiatives to promote love and connect people to resources to create a healthier community. One of my recent initiatives is Sparkbox. It is an activity kit that I created for kids that focuses on social emotional learning, and it really has helped create a gateway for parents to have meaningful conversations about their children's mental health without asking them, how are you doing today? You know, the typical question has been very effective. We've gotten over 2,000 activity kits to kids throughout the summer, so that's been beautiful. So on the second tier, on the national level, I sit on the advisory board for Cities United, and we work with mayors across the country. We have over 130 mayors in our network that we work to help reduce violence in their city. And we work with like the Obama Foundation and different national partners like that. And then on a global level, I partner with Facebook Education, ISTE, and actually at the end of this summer, I'll be working with the Global Business Coalition for Education to do an event for the United Nations General Assembly 2020. So I'm excited about that work, and it all connects and ties in to a lot of this conversation that we're having right now about equity And I'm really appreciate Nexus Louisiana for this platform and this opportunity for a lot of us Black entrepreneurs to engage with and, you know, express the challenges and the wealth that comes with being a minority entrepreneur.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing a lot of work to build up that youth pipeline, which is exactly what we need. So thank you for all the work you're doing in the community.
Most definitely, thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, so let's go ahead and introduce the rest of the panelists. So let's go. I guess I want to welcome them to the stage. All right, we have Anthony checking in. We got Courtney checking in. What's up, man?
Hey.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Yeah. Also on the line, we have we should have Power Pump Girls checking in with us as well. So let's start to talk about a little bit about what we have going on. So Anthony, man, how are you? Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, you know?
Okay. How you doing, everyone? I'm Anthony Kimball. I'm managing partner of Kimball Properties. We're a real estate development firm. We also own a commercial construction company and residential construction company, Blue House Construction, and then I'm partnered with a commercial company with Tevin Wade with CMG LLC. So we're real estate developers. We really focus on urban communities, inner city communities. We really look at our niche as building communities that accommodate all people. So right now we're doing a lot of work in the Old South Baton Rouge area, Baton Rouge Mid-City area, Baton Rouge. And you know, that's what we do. We really look to produce products and housing that really accommodate all people and build communities that accommodate all people.
Nah, I appreciate that. I saw you mention that you work in Old South Baton Rouge. You know, I grew up in that neighborhood, and I appreciate that work. Yeah, Courtney, man, what's going on with you, man?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on? My turn?
Oh yeah, man, it's your turn. You have the stage. What's going on?
Yeah, so my name's Courtney Sparkman. I'm CEO and founder of OfficerReports.com. Serial entrepreneur, 5th company, going on 6th. So for Officer Reports, what we do, we're a software as a service company, and we provide software to security guard companies to help them manage their remote workforces, whether that's around communications, attendance, and accountability.
I love it, man. Accountability is something that's really needed, you know, especially within the work and the conversations that we're having now. You know, yeah, love what you do, man. Love accountability. And now joining us as well, we have Power Pump Girls, Raina and Sherin. Hello. Can you tell us a little bit about your organization and yourself?
So I'm Raina, this is Sherin. We're the co-founders of Power Pump Girls, which is a social impact club that connects women to serve in their community.
Love it. Love the work that you guys do. I've been following it for some time. I've just recently, they had a blood drive, and it was amazing. It was one of the top ones that have been done in a while. So shout out to you and your work in that. So yeah, let's dive straight into this conversation. You know, it's been a lot of issues that's been coming up lately about you know, the Black experience in America. I mean, I'm saying lately, but you know, this has been a topic for years, if not centuries and decades. So is there anything different about the conversation now versus then, or anything? Feel free to jump in, anyone.
I think the conversation is different now, you know, especially when you start looking at where social media has taken us over the last 10 or 15 years, that everything is visible now. And with that being said, you know, sometimes I feel like over, you know, decades ago, since, you were able to, if it didn't really impact you, it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. And now with so many people being on social media and the way knowledge is shared through social media and other platforms over the internet, you can't, for a lot of people, you know, it's hard for it to be out of sight, out of mind, because it's visually there. You're seeing it. You can't say, you know, for a lot of people, like, I don't understand, like, you know, what's happening with Black folks and cops, because it's visually there. You know, you see these videos, you see these pictures, these images, and those things you just can't block out. So I think that's one of the reasons that the conversation has started to change from, well, I've never experienced it, or I've never seen that happen, when it's like, it's visually there. You can't just say you hadn't seen it.
Yeah, and
right.
And coming from an old head, right, which would be me. So I remember back, you know, setting up boycotts at McDonald's, Shell gas station. This is back before, you know, when apartheid still existed, right? So, I mean, I've been involved in this for a long, long time. And back then, you know, I remember the way we were doing it was phone calls, right? So you got to connect with one person connects with somebody else, and you're sharing this little information within your little clique, right? Within your small neighborhood. But now what we're able to see, you know, to Anthony's point, is with social media, you're able to make these things grow so quickly, right? You're able to build these spider webs of touch points almost instantly, right? And I think it's because of that interconnectivity that you have the ability to scale these things, and these things continue to live. You know, I remember how long it took us, you know, protesting apartheid before that ended. In the world of social media, you know, a couple of months, right? We're done with it. But now, you know, it's a beautiful thing. Social media is probably one of the greatest things that ever happened to people in general.
Right. Nah, I definitely agree with that, man. Just the whole connecting piece of it. You know, social media has definitely helped us get more connected. So it's definitely been an advantage there. And also to Anthony's point, you know, it's kind of unavoidable at this point. You know, you can say, you know, you can try to hide from the conversation, but it's only so far you can hide. Like it's all out in the open. And, you know, I love it. Yeah. So no one else has any other comments on that, then I guess we can, Sherin, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, I just wanted
go ahead.
I wanted to piggyback on what Anthony said, because I think right now social media in general has pressed us as citizens and as individuals to take action, whereas before I feel like some things were very passive. And now, you know, just like what Anthony said, it's like you can't avoid it, you can't unsee it. And so now more than ever, it either makes you step up and say, you know what, I want to be a part of this change, and I'm going to do things that are actionable that are going to impact that change. Or you can be a part of the problem and sit back. But either way, social media has allowed you to see which lane people are in and how you can actually drive that impact.
I think one other point to touch on is the deflector. I think that's another kind of stance a lot of people are playing. It's like, well, I know cops are killing people, Black people, but you know, let's talk about these riots. You know, I know cops are killing people, but you know, why, you know, are you just not, you know, complying with everything the officer said? But it's like, hey, we're still not talking about the actual issue. We're talking about, you know, all these other things when it's like, hey, let's touch on the actual issue. And then some of these other things will be solved as solving what is actually the issue.
Right. Nah, definitely. Right. And to Shireen's point about, you know, being silent, you know, being silent is picking a side. In my opinion, I feel like definitely, you know, being silent is taking action in a way, but not in a way that's beneficial to the cause. But we do also understand that people need time to process and to take that mental time, because we don't just want you to act out of impulse, because that's not helpful either as well. So, you know, if you are being silent, I hope that it's time that's being taken to process and see what's a calculated and strategic action that you can take to help the cause in a positive way. So thank you so much for that. I guess going on to the next thing, man, you know, we're here, we're entrepreneurs, you know, let's dive into the entrepreneur conversation in light of this. You know, looking back over those early days in business, what challenges did you face whenever jumping in, and is it any easier now? or you know, what's going on? Like how did it start? Was it hard starting? You know, kind of give us a background. I guess we can start with Courtney. He looks like he's ready to go.
It's always hard, right? So this is my fifth one. Does not get any easier, right? And I think so. I've had a couple of different businesses: landscaping, video sharing, security guard company. This is a software company. And no matter what the actual company has been, what I've come to realize that my challenge has always been resources, right? It's the money. So as I look back, you know, at my security guard company, prime example, right? We had gotten to the point where, you know, our payroll was, you know, a few $100,000 a month, right? And we're funding a lot of that out of my pocket, my parents' pockets, credit cards, right? I mean, solid company growing steadily. We go to a bank, right, with the idea, oh man, we've got these contracts with the government. Oh man, we're solid, we're profitable. They're gonna give us some money. We get there. I mean, literally, so I think at that point our payroll is about $300,000 or $400,000 a month. We go to the bank, and the bank is saying, "Oh yeah, you've got this great company, blah blah blah. Yeah, we'll put a lien on your house. Well, we're gonna give you $50,000 line of credit." I'm like, what am I supposed to do with a $50,000 line of credit? You know, so I've always seen entrepreneurs, you know, that I know get just enough money to fail, right? So that's just kind of a thing that happens pretty frequently. Software company. When I started that, you know, again, I was not plugged into those networks. I didn't know anybody who I could really go to kind of get advice and be plugged into the network. And one of the first conversations that I had with somebody coming out, a guy that I just kind of reached out on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I've got this company. Would you be willing to talk to me?" Fairly well-known guy in the SaaS industry. And after about 15 minutes on the phone, first thing he said was, "That business is never going to work." And I'm like, what? What do you mean? I mean, we haven't talked for anything about 15 minutes, but he had made that decision. Second guy that I went to was actually an investor and said, "Hey, you know, I've got this idea. You know, I know what the problem is. I've got this prototype. We're working." Looked at it 15 minutes, said, "This is not going to work. We're not going to fund you." And at that point, it was like, you know what? Okay, I see I'm going to have to do this the same way that I've done everything else. And that is, we're going to have to bootstrap it and, you know, figure out a way to do it, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs have to do, right? Genevieve's numbers are correct. You know, we see that, right? That we just have to figure out a way. But what would the possibilities be if we could actually get some money invested in our company's early stage? Just makes you wonder.
Yeah, man, and I really appreciate that story. Just for a lot of different reasons. It's a story that a lot of us share about, you know, it might be, you know, doors slamming in faces, but then, you know, you eventually find your way and find your footing. And, you know, even speaking of that, there's so many challenges that come, you know, with being a minority entrepreneur, but there's also wealth in it as well from the resiliency that builds up within those challenges, because hey, it creates tougher skin, it creates, you know, so you can thrive, and then whenever those doors do start opening, hey, you ready to get it. So I appreciate that. You know, I'm a fan of their story, and I would like to hear more about Power Pump Girls. You know, starting off, like what happened there?
Yeah, so first I'll start by saying we're a little bit different than everyone on the call because we are double minority. Not only are we Black, we are women. And so we have faced a lot of trouble, the same with what Courtney was saying, with resources. When we go to pitch what Power Pump Girls is to a foundation, because we're a nonprofit, or try to raise money through like grants, it's really difficult for us to get funding. One, because we are so niche, and the people that we are serving, it's a very, very specific thing. So we've had challenges walking into a room of men trying to pitch our nonprofit and explain what the impact is. But if it just doesn't connect to you because you're not a woman, or because you're not Black and you're not literally being impacted by this dollar, you know, we've hit so many so many obstacles because of that.
Yeah, and I think another challenge besides the resources is just when you're first starting as an entrepreneur, you see the vision 5, 10, 20 years down the road, and trying to scale it back and why you need the resources you need right now. Sometimes they don't always get the picture. So that's a challenge I think a lot of entrepreneurs face, is like, I need you to see what I see up here. I need you to understand where I see this going. Like, getting people to believe in you in those early stages is a big challenge. But I think improving yourself and doing the work, it kind of validates your need for those resources. And so in a way, as you kind of chip away at the work, you're able to get what it is you're asking for. But it is a challenge as a Black female entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you, specifying, Black female entrepreneur, because, a lot of people forget about the intersectionality that happens there when it comes to challenges. It's not just one layer; it's a lot of different layers. So I definitely want to acknowledge that whenever we say challenges and wealth that comes with being a Black entrepreneur, there's a lot of other things that may be there as well. So definitely. And not to say that, these other things are negative attributes, because there's a lot of power in being a Black woman as well. So love it.
So can I chime in on that a little bit more too?
Yeah, go ahead.
So because of that, all entrepreneurs have to find ways to pivot and evolve so that they continue to maintain like a viable business. Because like Raina said, although other people may not understand the impact or see the vision, it's up to you to make sure that, it stays afloat. And so one of the things that we had to realize quickly and not beat ourselves up about it is there are a ton of people that are not going to understand this or connect with it. So what are ways that we can get creative to make sure that this vision is continued to live out? And one of those things that we did was create a merch line of products, right? Because what we knew was that if the foundations and bigger people didn't understand it, the people on the community level that we're serving did understand it. So how do we tap into those individuals to make sure that they understand the importance of us giving and taking, right?
Right. One of my mentors has always has drilled in my head, whenever we talk about community work, the first question that you ask is, who are my people? Who are the people that we need to connect with, and who we're serving? And I definitely understand that a lot. So thank you for that. Does anybody else want to chime in? If not, then I'll go ahead and move forward with the next question.
I'll chime in a little bit. I've been blessed to be in a situation where money and resources wasn't my issue. I graduated from Stanford. I graduated from Tulane grad school. I played football at Stanford, and multiple of my friends that I grew up with in Baton Rouge played in the NBA and the NFL. So we had the resources were there. I think the biggest thing for me, especially coming out of a place like Stanford, having the opportunity to go work in New York private equity investment banking, was getting people to believe in Baton Rouge, and then getting some of the ideas that I saw other places, or that some of my partners may have executed in other places. How can we make this happen in Baton Rouge and actually come to a smaller market like Baton Rouge and execute and have value? When I first, one of my business partners that has invested, now over $1 million with me, when I first called him and talked about Baton Rouge, he was like, man, I just watched it go to Pittsburgh. You should come to Pittsburgh. He's like, what you talking about? I can't make it make sense. Then talking to these New York investment banking guys, and their whole perception is like, has New Orleans even recovered since Katrina? Because that's the only visual that they have of New Orleans and Louisiana. And like, I still get so many questions about hurricanes. Like, literally, like the Hurricane Lake Charles, like, I probably got calls from 5 to 7 of my investors about, hey, are we going to be all right? Hey, I'm like, well, we're in Baton Rouge, we're a little further inland, trying to, become a weatherman and explain how weather works. But, I think that's been a challenge that, hey, Baton Rouge is a great place. I've been blessed with resources, but I will say Baton Rouge is always not super open to outside ideas and outsiders. So I think that's one of the things that's been the bigger challenge to me, is like getting things I've seen other places and people from other places to come here and say, hey, let's do something, and then having the market and the community support it. I think those are some of the challenges, I faced in my journey. And one thing I will say, that's been key to me in all this is just really enjoying the journey, enjoying the process, and understanding, that some of the rewards are down, but like setting these goals every day and accomplishing the small goals that lead to the bigger impact.
Oh, go ahead.
And I would imagine, that's not just going to be a Baton Rouge thing, right? So any market out there, if you're not, California, New York, Boston, I throw in Chicago, right? Those smaller, secondary, tertiary markets are probably going to face the exact same struggles that we face here in Baton Rouge, right? So I know specifically, being from Chicago originally, the tech environment, the tech community there, the investment community there is a little different than it is, in smaller markets. So, I'm glad to hear that somebody was willing to do that and make that investment, right? Because in order for us to, really improve and dream and get bigger, we're going to need those things. And, having people like you open that up for us, that's great.
Yeah, most definitely. Genevieve, did you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I wanted to say I've heard the word resources from all of you in this conversation so far, and I know that there are a lot of resources in the community, all the way from the youth. I see a lot of people in the chat, Young Entrepreneurs Academy, Futures Fund, Eric Lewis and E5 Company, and then all the way through into organizations like ours that support entrepreneurs. There's SCORE, I think Tony's on the call here, small business development centers. But I think when y'all are talking about resources, you're probably talking about capital. But I'm wondering, and we all know that there's a capital problem across the country, especially for minority entrepreneurs. I wanted to talk about the other supportive resources, and when you guys were starting out, did you know that these kind of support entities were here for you, and did you utilize those? Is there an awareness problem? And if so, what can we do about it?
I'll kind of speak to that. So when Raina and I first got started with our for-profit company, there were a lot of things that we were not aware that were viable resources for us, including the LSBDC on Southern University's campus. It was something that we were not aware of. And when we were walking into rooms with our other friends who were starting their businesses, they had also not been aware of those opportunities and resources where, they'll pay up to 50% of your website, they'll pay up to 50% of your branding. And we had to really do like a deep dive. If you're trying to trademark or patent, there's a program there where they will do it for free with the Southern Law Clinic. Those were all things that we were not aware of, but we had to kind of find out through the grapevine, honestly, and just doing our own research. So I will say that there is an awareness issue there.
Yeah.
I think awareness is an ecosystem issue. Of being aware, but also having like a real defined like ecosystem of like, this is where I can go to this is where like those entities being able to work together and add value. I always tell people just as important as money is, and like table of influence is just as important. So like I think one thing, a lot of these entities who do support entrepreneurs, they're so disconnected from each other and don't really have any type of ecosystem that it's hard. It's like, okay, once I find one, then I have to like search for what's next and what's the next resource, because there's just not a well-defined ecosystem between a lot of the organizations and people within Baton Rouge, especially when you talk about the Black community.
Yeah. Definitely the awareness is key. And not just getting the awareness out within the network. Like what I've noticed personally is whenever people do have these resources, and not to say that it's everyone or, sometimes people don't have like a marketing department. They just go off of, how, the email list that they have, and it's, you know, what are we doing what are organizations doing to expand their reach and making sure that they're intentional about reaching all demographics. You know, you have a great resource that may be putting a lot of great resources into minority businesses or just businesses as a whole, but what's the marketing budget to make sure that these people get what they need? You know, it's a $2 million, $4 million, a couple $100,000 program, but the marketing budget is however many emails we have, contacts we have. You know, that doesn't match up. So definitely, hey, any organizations that's on the call, you know, I would love to see and talk with you guys about how we can be more intentional about getting these resources to make sure that everyone has access to them. And yeah, so
really quick, Bill, can I hop in on there again?
Go ahead. Nice, open conversation. Let's go.
Yeah, so not only that, I think that it has to be broken down into digestible bites for the community as well when you're serving it on a plate, right? Because there are, like, anytime that Raina and I have gone in, I know once we went to get a business plan because we had no idea how to write a business plan. However, that was a service that they offered, but it was a very intimidating process. It was a very overwhelming process. And so, especially with our community of people who are, you know, trying to reestablish roots as entrepreneurs and business owners, there are a lot of things when those resources are presented to us that just don't make sense. So not only is it important to like bring awareness to it, but it's also important to understand who you're talking to so that we can be effective as small business owners.
And I think that's what equity is about, right? It's not about offering the same thing to everyone. It's about offering the things that fit for the people who need it.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Right. And when we talk about equity, you know, we're talking about, fairness, you know, just making sure that everyone has a equal opportunity, and then going beyond just what we're doing for everyone to make sure that we're intentional about reaching certain demographics. You know, that's the big difference between equality and equity is, you know, yeah, we can do this for everyone, but let's go the extra mile to make sure that this, what some people will consider a disadvantaged population has the right amount of access to put them on the same playing field. So yeah, did anybody have any other comments on that before I go to the next thing? Okay, well, we all good.
I do want to give you kudos on that marketing piece. I had never thought about that, right? So you've got all these programs, but they don't have the ability to go out and advertise and say, hey, come use us. Usually how you find out about it is one program will tell you about another program that might happen to be out there. And I never thought about that. You're absolutely right.
Nah, thank you. I appreciate that. Whenever I do my work with a lot of different mayors and politicians, like throughout the country, like I always tell them that, because, you know, people understand marketing when it comes to campaigns and voting, but they just forget about it when it comes to the programming once you're in office. So it's like, so that's one of the things that, like, I really try to say, like, hey, you know, we put all this money to things, but then we definitely want to make sure that people can actually connect with them because we're spending all this money on it. So yeah, if anybody's on the call, please take some time. You know, I would love to see people get more intentional about the marketing aspect to the great resources that you have.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, Anthony kind of spoke on it earlier about like challenges that you know we may be facing now. Does anybody want to speak on like challenges that might be that you guys may be facing like right now at this current moment, and feel comfortable with sharing?
Yeah, I can take that one. Sherin kind of mentioned we had to, as entrepreneurs, but us specifically, we had to find a way to pivot our model. Typically, Power Pump Girls' revenue stream as a nonprofit was hosting events and getting the awareness out, bringing women together. With COVID-19, obviously, we couldn't have events anymore. And so with merch being one of our revenue streams, we really had to make that the focus because that was what was bringing in funds for our organization. So Anthony's actually rocking one of our merch pieces, but it does bring awareness to our organization. It helps to fund the organization and keep it afloat and bring back revenue to fund some of the initiatives we have, such as Secured. So one of the biggest challenges for us was having to completely stop one of our main activities as a nonprofit and pivot to something different. We did start hosting some online events and connecting with people virtually, but that was our main bread and butter in the way that we actively were in the community. So it was a challenge, but we were able to navigate that and are hoping to have that come back in the future.
So, fortunate, my company, I think we're in a very fortunate place. So we are actually all distributed. So we don't have an office right now. We've been working remotely. So it's about 12 of us and we work globally, right? So everybody works from home office. So COVID really didn't affect us that much, knock on wood. And not to mention our customers are kind of recession proof. When things get bad, our customers' services are demanded more. But last year, I'm not sure if this really ties in, last year was probably was the toughest year I've ever had as an entrepreneur. We had some serious system issues and, service went down for a day. And I really thought that, the 10 years, 8 years at the time that I put in, was, right? I'm like, oh, the business is done. I'm about to get a job at McDonald's. It's finished. But, over the course of, a few months, almost half a year, we were able to work ourselves back up to a very sustainable position. And I think what the biggest thing that I learned from that was, it's really about your team, right? When they say you have to surround yourself with people who are a lot smarter than you, a lot more talented than you, that is the absolute truth, right? And that was really one of the only ways that we were able to rebound was, bringing in this disparate group of people to help out.
I'll touch on that a little bit. For me, I agree. We've been blessed to be in a great position. I mean, this year I think we've injected over $3 million in actual cash into both South Baton Rouge and Mid City. I think one thing for me that's important in Baton Rouge is for local government to support Black businesses as they support white businesses, and have some more balance there. When you look at government contracts, and especially on the local government, there's a huge disparity. And in most cities, people look at government sometimes as like this entity that at the end of the day, this is all business. Everything comes back to commerce and contracts. So when you have local government not being a generator for one community as it is for another, and helping some of these businesses have some of this foundational revenue through contracts and stuff, I think, that's one of the things in Baton Rouge that needs to be addressed. There's just huge disparities there of like what, and it's not just contracts, it's subsidies, it's tips, and part of it is education within our community, and part of it is, local government being more intentional about not having these disparities. So I think when you look at business, especially in a local market like Baton Rouge, I do think that things there is that local government can do to better support and be intentional about helping Black businesses.
Look, Anthony, let me ask you a question. So in Chicago, every government contract that goes out, city and state, had a certain portion of that contract that had to go to MBEs or had to go. We don't have DBE requirements in Baton Rouge. Okay, that answers the question. I mean, well, next.
Wow.
I struggle to understand why
jobs do require it, or but I know New Orleans, and I mean, if anyone's in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, I know New Orleans has its own DBE program. I'm not aware of a DBE program that's in Baton Rouge. That's like a well-established structured program.
Well, actually, I spoke with Kenyatta Sparks, and he's on the call today, and he mentioned in the chat he's with SJB Group, and he does contract with the city to work with companies that are interested in getting DBE contracts, and he can provide a wealth of wraparound services. So,
but do we have an actual DBE program in the city?
What's that?
Is there actual let's say city government has a project in Baton Rouge, do we have actual DBE requirements in Baton Rouge? do it, doesn't it? Like I said, I've never heard of like the airport in New York. They had certain DB requirements when building an airport. I just hadn't heard of any structured programs in Baton Rouge like that.
Which doesn't make sense to me personally, right? Because if you're starting to talk about governments and cities and municipalities and states committing to this idea, I mean, you commit with dollars. I mean, that's what speaks to me. If we're saying that we're going to support these underprivileged communities, that support should come through the form of, we're going to get you some business, right? Where you historically have not received that business. And in order to do that, I don't think it can be a thing where you say, okay, Mr. General Contractor, we would like it if you sort of kind of could consider thinking about, it doesn't work, right? So I'm again, I'm sorry for off topic here, but that just
Nah. This is right on topic. I definitely
that say the state program, the state is that BR is no, that we don't have a program. That the airport in Baton Rouge is ran through the federal program. But yeah, the calls. I never get calls from kind of like big primes about Baton Rouge contract. I get calls all the time about New Orleans because they actually have to have DB. They have DB requirements to meet.
Yeah, Kenyatta is saying in the chat here that the city of Baton Rouge just completed their disparity study in December, and they're currently in the process of developing the DB program off the recommendations from the study. So that's right. I do remember Kenyatta saying that, and you guys, anybody on the call should contact SJB Group and Kenyatta if they want to find out more about that.
Right. So I mean, hey, it sounds like we have a first action item. This is what this conversation is about. I've definitely, I've heard about the one at the airport, but appreciate you, Anthony, for giving me some more insight on that. Didn't know that it was federal. And then, hey, if we don't have a parish mandate, then we definitely need to get that rolling. So, maybe that's an action item that we can start with that emerges from this. So, I'm all here for it.
Well, not only to help promote and encourage the city to do it, but to get the awareness out. We were talking about awareness, and it's no good to have the mandate if nobody knows about it and nobody knows about the services that SJB and other support entities can provide to help these companies. So.
Right. And then, even if there is something that does exist, what can we do to improve it? Because there's always ways that we can improve. So, on that subject, let's talk about access to capital and to different opportunities. Genevieve, would you mind speaking on black funders receive a disproportionately smaller amount of investment? Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, so there's two main issues that I see with that. The first is that initial capital into a scalable venture, if we're talking about scalable, in the types of ventures that Nexus Louisiana works with, initial capital is going to come from friends and family. And when we talk about that, we have to talk about the wealth gap. There's an enormous wealth gap in, across the nation. I think it's household income is for minorities are 61% of white households. And that's going to affect how businesses get started because they're not getting that initial capital in. Even if it's a bankable deal, banks are going to require a certain percentage of equity. That equity is typically going to come from friends and family. And so again, the wealth gap plays into that. So we need to have more programs that are providing some initial seed capital for businesses. The company that we spun off, Innovation Catalyst, has a seed capital fund. They had gotten some federal and state dollars to start that program, and they invested 53%, I think, of their initial round of investments was in minority and female-owned companies. minority and or female-owned companies. So those types of programs work, but a lot of times there's just an initial slug of money into them, and then the money runs out, and then there's nothing else behind it. The other thing that the community can do is to develop more angel investing in minority and low-income communities. So Nexus Louisiana and Innovation Co. has worked to launch a new angel investor network called the Red Stick Angels in January of this year. But, you know, there's a decided lack of female and minority faces in the room. And so, you know, many studies show that if a female or minority is pitching to someone that doesn't look like them, oftentimes they're not going to get funded. And so we need more minority and female investors to join these types of angel investor networks to invest in a group and help make sure that there's representation from the investor standpoint.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, most def. Does anybody have
Let me touch on that real quick. And I definitely agree these organizations need to do more. And I think one thing we need to understand as a local community when it comes to entrepreneurship is that we have to get away from solving local or regional problems with like a lot of our entities and our startups and get to solving more national or things, you know, that may be seen as global. If we are ever going to have some of these businesses that go for more than just a local startup that has, I mean, with digital, what she's doing with Resilia, I'm on the board at Resilia. And one thing that excited me about what she's doing, and why I put my money in, I would go back to for what she's doing today is because she's looking to solve a national problem. It's not something that's just local to Baton Rouge or local to Louisiana. And I think that also needs to be part of the resources and the information that some of these entities is giving to, you know, some of these entrepreneurs or startups that are looking at like, hey, the startups that are successful, like you have to be solving problems that's bigger than usually just Baton Rouge to really capture a real part of a market share that's going to really result in some real revenue generation. And I think that's one thing we got to learn about. Like, it's just not about Baton Rouge, especially when you start talking about tech and some of, you know, these things people want to get into.
Nah, definitely, man. Pulling on those national resources, and I know, you know, it might seem like far and out of touch, but it's really not, especially if you're doing the work and you're doing it well. You know, so anybody have anything else to say about that? You know, as far as you know, access to capital and you know, being a Black founder.
Yeah, I can talk about how we've had to get creative again with how we access capital. So for us, again, as a nonprofit, we typically seek funding from funders or foundations. But this year we had to opt for crowdfunding, like Genevieve kind of mentioned too, seeking friends and family. We used a platform that was specific to women because they kind of set up the tools for you to have a successful crowdfunding campaign. But there were challenges even in that and navigating it, that it was so niche and so specific. So just knowing that there are resources out there isn't enough, as we've spoken to, but finding the ones that are best fit for you and getting creative with how you seek that capital can help, you know, take your business to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. So can we talk about networks a little bit? You know, how has your network played a part in your business? Like, what is the impact of relationships on your business, and then what issues do you see in terms of access to networking or network?
Yeah. So to me, I mean, I guess your network is everything, right? Because everything that you're going to need in your business is going to come from somebody that you know, right? Whether that is capital, whether that is legal advice. I mean, you can find vendors, I suppose, for that, but even finding the right vendors is kind of tough if you don't have the right people, right? So, you know, as I proceed on my journey, right, I know that and launching a new product, you're going to need capital. So, you know, a year ago, I started reaching out into these networks that I am not a part of, right? And most of the time, people who don't look like me, right? Try and get plugged in, because eventually what you start to figure out is, you know, people, I think Genevieve kind of touched on this, people don't really do a lot of business with people that they don't like, trust, or are comfortable with, right? So you have to start this thing where, okay, I got to get people more comfortable with, you know, this big black guy in the room with them, right? So, you know, it's kind of the journey that you have to take, you know, reaching outside of your current network and plugging into ones that you think you're going to need for the future.
Right, man. Networking is very important. And then whenever you are in these areas, you know, and I like how you spoke to whenever you are in these areas, you know, stepping into a place that people might not look like you, have the same dialect sometimes, you know, it's like, how does it feel whenever you go in these places? Do you ever have to, you know, what people might consider code switch? Do you feel like you ever have to not? I mean, it's a real conversation. Like, do you feel comfortable when you go in these places? Is there any challenges when going into these networks? I mean, have you seen any of that?
I mean, that's just the, you know, and honestly, that's just the way, you know, it's been for decades, right? So the way you are around probably some of your friends, your peers, when you go into these new networks, into these new spaces, you know, you feel like, okay, I have to make sure that, you know, they understand that I'm a good guy, right? That, you know, that they can do business with me, you know, that I'm above board, you know, that I've got my bachelor's degree in. So yeah, there's definitely some level of that. But I mean, there's definitely some level of that, right? And I think it's just ingrained in you, you know, once you start down this path.
Right, and I completely understand that, and I can attest to that myself. You know, I know whenever whenever I was doing work with Facebook, you know, they wanted me to go on stage with a black hoodie on, and it's like, I don't get that luxury of being a black man going on a global stage with a black hoodie on, because, you know, I got to make sure that I'm dressed up nicely and stuff to make people know that, hey, you know, it's comfortable around me. It's okay, because of the stigma that comes with certain things whenever I wear the same shirt someone else is wearing, or things things like that. So, you know, being an entrepreneur, I definitely understand that what you're talking about, and, you know, I definitely feel like that's a conversation that needs to be had. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Anybody else have any comments on that?
That's something that I made a conscious effort with me and my company to get away from.
Mm-hmm.
We're not.
Yeah.
I'm going to work just like this, and I'm fine with my employees going to work just like this, and that's how we're gonna roll. And if I lose a deal,
exactly.
Like, if I needed to do that to get a deal done with you, I don't need that deal. And at the end of the day, we need to be comfortable as Black people. You know what I mean? And within business, and understand that, like, there's different paths. And I don't even, like, you know, I just hired an architect to come here. He likes dressing up. I'm cool with that. That's your thing. But I'm not gonna allow. I don't think he has to do that to be successful. And so I'm not gonna push my team around me to have to do that. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we've shown even over these last 5 months, we don't even need to be in the same place a lot of times to be successful. So it's like, it's building a culture that we're comfortable with and that we're happy with.
Yeah. Anthony he's not exaggerating. That is actually one of the things that I really love about Anthony and the culture that he is building, because, you know, it's have to really be able to connect with me, and not what you see, because I am comfortable in who I am. So Anthony, you know, I want to thank you for actually embracing that and living that every single day, because you inspire us to do the same thing.
That authenticity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nah, definitely, man. That's definitely something that we got to continue to break the walls in. So shout out to that, man. And because the more that we like take that stance and be like, look, we got to do this, is definitely what I guess kind of I guess for lack of a better word, trains the mind to accept people for who they are and not for what you see them as. So definitely I appreciate that, because you know, people before us, our ancestors, they've always had to do those things, and this is a generation where we can start breaking down those barriers. So yeah, definitely, you know, I feel you. So the next thing is well, actually, I think it's time to go into the Q&A. Yeah, it's 11 o'clock. Let's get it. So let's go into some of the questions in the chat. If anybody sees a question that they see that they might want to address. Oh man, it's a lot of good questions in here.
Yeah, and while we're waiting for questions, I just want to say that if anybody's on this call and you need help with your business, whether it be DBE, government contracting, capital, workforce, we also have a tech workforce program. You click on this green button down there, or you can go to our website, NexusLA.org, and we will make sure you get to the right resource. The Small Business Development Center, Metromorphosis, SCORE, EFA, there's SJB Group, there's a ton of resources and people on this call that we can connect you with, in addition to resources that we provide at Nexus Louisiana. So click on that green button.
Yeah. So one question that we have is, what advice would you give emerging business owners regarding access to capital? Anybody have any advice?
I mean, it goes back to relationships and figuring out how to build those relationships. I mean, a lot of my banking relationships were built through my mentors, because at the end of the day, I'm looking like, well, y'all doing this, you know what I mean? So, you know, help me build that relationship. I think that's one part of having mentors and having people around you that don't have the relationships that you have. You know what I mean? And understand, I'm a big team guy. Play college football and stuff, so I always tell people, like, you know, like, no one person is important for the team. So like, the relationships and the things I have might be different from the next person, and like, we have to somehow figure out how to sometimes bring these things together to achieve what we're looking to achieve. But a lot comes back to what we discussed, like your network and being able to really tap into your network and be intentional. I always tell people, another thing we have to do more as entrepreneurs, tell people what you're doing. I tell people always tell me, like, you know, I want to get into real estate. I'm like, so what are your resources, and like, who are you talking about just outside of, you know, me or real estate? I was like, tell your aunties, tell your mom. You never know when you're going to find like a person who either owns a property that may, because of your relationship, want to give you a great deal, or who's willing to invest in you. And it's like, sometimes we don't want to tell people about stuff till it's perfected. When it's like, you look at, especially in the tech world, it's like, no, put the product out there and then improve it. But like, you got to be willing to tell people what you're doing and, you know, have confidence. And I mean, that's part of people believing in you and wanting to invest in you. It's like, I know when I talk to, especially my investments outside of real estate, because I do things in tech and other areas, it's like, a lot of times I'm investing in the talent and like that confidence and that know-how. Is like, I know the product might not be always perfected, but if I see, like, even going back to Ceviche and Resilient, I know Ceviche is going to work our butt off and make Resilient successful. And you know what I mean? So it's like, we got to be able to, like, talk about what we want to do and use our network and our team to, you know, help us build that out.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say clarity is a really big thing. Clarity and confidence and creativity are the things that are really important when seeking capital, because if you can't clearly communicate what it is you're trying to accomplish and how someone who plans on investing in you will be able to see a return on that investment, you have already lost your people. But also creativity, because people who are looking to give you capital want to know that, you know, if times get hard, they're not your only source, and that you can get creative and still stay afloat, so that you know that you have their interest at heart. So say you run out of their capital, but you can get creative to still end up getting a return. And going back to what Kimball just said, I mean, Anthony, sorry, Anthony, going back to what Anthony just said is, you know, confidence, right? Because people can definitely feel that lack of confidence when you go in and ask for, you know, X amount of dollars. I can give an example of Raina and I hopping on a call in our earlier days, and we were asking for a dollar amount, and they wanted us to explain exactly where and how this money would be allocated. And in our minds, it's like, we've already told you this. But if you're not clear and you cannot easily communicate it for the person on the other end, you are not going to get that money. It doesn't matter how big and grand you see this impact being.
Yeah. Having a clear vision, you know, really opens the door for a lot of other people to, I mean, understand your vision. Hey, if you don't have a clear understanding of your own vision, I mean, how can, you know, you relay it to others? So definitely. Another question is, any words of encouragement for collegiate students of color hoping to start their own business one day, and any tips or advice for getting the process started early?
I will say I did not, well, in my mind when I was in school, I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. That didn't happen until later, but I know in school a lot of universities have tons of resources for young entrepreneurs or people who are looking to start their own businesses, a lot of which are free. So take advantage of those. And then speaking to the networking component, fast forwarding now that I am an entrepreneur, a lot of the network that I built in school became useful later in life as part of the businesses we've built. And so just being really conscious of making meaningful relationships in college, not always with the idea of how can this person benefit me, but just making meaningful relationships, knowing what people do. And then to Anthony's point, making sure they know what it is you're wanting to do. It might not click then, but in the future, those resources can become very, very viable for you as an entrepreneur.
Definitely. Anyone else have anything as far as, you know, young Black collegiate entrepreneurs, somebody just starting in?
Yeah, there's a lot of resources that are emerging. I mean, first of all, we've got our BizTech Challenge that we run here at Nexus, Louisiana. We definitely would love to connect college students with that. Southern University's got their EDA Innovation Center, so they should go see Ada and Dina over there. LSU has a whole student incubator over there at LSU. And then also I recommend a group out of Atlanta called Opportunity Hub. So Google Opportunity Hub. They've got a wealth of resources for college students, and they're trying to set up Opportunity Hub programs at a lot of the HBCUs around the country, but they've got a ton of resources online, and they're connected with capital groups that are specifically funding minority entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I have a question that says, does anyone have a specific resource for free or inexpensive trademarking? Southern University Law Clinic was mentioned earlier. Does anybody have any resources as far as protecting intellectual property?
So Raina and I can speak to that as well. Yes, Southern Law Clinic definitely has a free service where they connect you with a law student that will help you in your trademarking process. One thing that we had to learn was to start that process with them from the beginning. Mm-hmm. We started it on our own and made a mistake, and then we brought it to them to rectify, and we kind of messed it up so much that it was not fixable. So I would start with them from the beginning, and they will walk you through that process, and it is free. So inexpensive, yes, free.
Yeah.
I would also mention small business development program that is operated by the state through Louisiana Economic Development. If you go to, I believe it's opportunitylouisiana.gov, opportunitylouisiana.gov, click on incentives and you'll see the small business development program. They offer matching grants for certain types of technical assistance. They used to help fund intellectual property legal work. I don't know if they still do. Maybe the small business development centers like the one at Southern that Ada operates can help you with that. So that's where you would go for checking out that program.
Right. Does anyone else have anything else to add on that? I mean, it's a lot of great resources out there. Does anybody have any resources that we didn't mention on the call already?
I see Brian McNamara with LSU's Innovation and Technology Commercialization. He's got a link there in the chat as well.
Yep. Also, don't forget about so if you want to get like branding, your logo, all of those, all of that done, the state will also pay up to 50% of that, as well as a website. And I think it's up to $1,500 for branding and up to $1,500 or $3,000 on web work. So if you bring them someone who is a good vendor that you suggest, they will also go with your vendor or they will provide you with one.
Yeah, that's all through that small business development program. So go to the Small Business Development Center at LSU or Southern, and they will walk you through that process. They'll hold your hand until you get that money.
Nah, that's great. Any other resources that that you guys or anyone would like to offer up? Okay. So one question is, the new emerging ecosystem seems to be overlooking the existing ecosystem that has been in place for over 30 plus years. How can we make the intergenerational connections that need to be made? Okay.
What ecosystem are we talking about?
I mean, I guess the current, like basically the gatekeepers or, the people who have been in these industries that we're in and have been there for like over 30 years. Like how do we break down those barriers to create those partnerships or possibly, create those networks?
Yeah, I think we're talking about mentorship here too. We need the people that have been there, done that, to plug back in to the ones that are coming up.
I'll just be honest, especially in the Black community, I don't feel, and I don't want to generalize and say all, but I think one of the issues we do have is that those generations before us did a great job being intentional about empowering the next generation. And you could say, some argument rebuttal could be, hey, they just wanted to hold on to what was theirs, and stuff like that. But I think there is a huge disconnection, and I just feel, especially we're talking about a place like Baton Rouge, that ecosystem is not really there. I mean, we have some people in the Black that did some great things, but as far as like having an ecosystem, I know I can go to this person for funding. I know I can go to this person and like he's gonna take care of like the legal and stuff like that. And some of these other cities, I mean, there's people like, in Houston, if you want to like doing restaurant entertainment, Cam Malloy, that you can go talk to Cam and like he might put some, like there's people in some of these other cities that like it's well established. And that's one thing I try to challenge myself is to make sure I'm being intentional about empowering and also understanding that it might not always work out the first time. And we're going to have some struggles, not struggles, but sometimes we might have to rework some things and figure out, what's the best relationship. But, I'm committed to being intentional about building those relationships. I watched Sherin and Raina do what they do. And like, I was intentional about, hey, I like what they're doing. We're friends. We know each other. We need to figure out a way to work together. So we're opening a shared office space on 14th Street in Myrtle, the old Lincoln 2 building. And like, you know, when I thought of like, who can help me like with, you know, the functionality of the marketing with this place, hey, I'm going to be intentional by empowering them because I'm seeing the work that they're doing. And that's one thing I do think outside of like close family and friendship relationships in Baton Rouge, we got to just be more empowered. I don't need you to be my family. I don't need you to, you know, be like, you know, it's like I just want to find people doing good work and figure out how we can continue building this ecosystem to, you know, allow me to take myself and my work farther and allow them to push themselves farther.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I think we've never been afraid of is identifying those key people and those gatekeepers and then approaching them. And to Anthony's point, sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes you get a no, but identifying them and being willing to put yourself out there to ask questions and get involved and ask for mentorship is the first step. And then secondly, being intentional about being that mentor for the next generation and for this generation, because if we're setting up that framework now, in the years to come, it'll be more of a natural thing for people to work together and think in the mindset of ecosystem, but not being afraid to, if there isn't already a clear identified bridge, making that yourself and putting yourself out there to connect with that person.
And I'm going to speak for that group that, you know, has not done a good job of being intentional, right? So
you ain't that old.
Man, you be surprised. You be surprised. And I would say that, you know, people in my age bracket, you know, 50 plus, right, have not done a very good job of going out and seeking people to mentor, right? And I just actually had this conversation with another gentleman that owns a fairly large company in Texas, right? Probably have not done the best job of being intentional about these things. But at the same time, I think it's kind of our belief is that when the help is needed, that someone will reach out. Right, which might not be the case, right? So I look for my phone to ring anytime, and I'm actually very open with my time, right? I probably speak to, you know, 2 or 3 upstarts, you know, budding entrepreneurs every week, right? There's somebody in my calendar saying, hey, I need 30 minutes of your time to help me out with this particular issue. And I think that generation, our generation, is there to assist, right? You know, and I would think that most people that you would try to go talk to would be open to having you sit down with them, doing lunch, whatever, becoming a mentor. But we are not as intentional about seeking it out because, generally speaking, we're probably focused on, you know, kind of to somebody's point, we're trying to run this business, right? Because, you know, we've got kids, we've got wives, houses, and all this other stuff that's going on in your life that's kind of important. But at the same time, we do realize that it is, you know, our responsibility to make sure that the people, the entrepreneurs that are coming behind us that look like us are successful. So I would say, you know, I think we're here, and maybe we do absolutely need to do a better job of reaching back to make sure that our relationship is there.
Let me touch on one more thing about that, especially when looking at Baton Rouge. I don't know if most people know, I'm a real estate guy. So Baton Rouge is one of the most sprawled cities in the country. When you talk about like just the, you know, the suburbs, the urban core. Especially when you look at the Black community, there's a huge disconnection because there's just not a lot of connectivity. We don't live in the same neighborhoods. We're sprawled all over Baton Rouge. And I think one thing that was important for me, I live in New Orleans, so I have a house in Baton Rouge. It was important for me to put my business on 14 in Myrtle and put my house that I live in Baton Rouge on Myrtle Street. Because at the end of the day, Courtney, like, you know, let's say, you know, we live in the same community and we see each other multiple times a week, there's a better chance about us working together. Because like when I think of something tech-wise, I'm like, what's it doing? Live down the street. Let me go ask you about that. But sometimes when you lose that disconnection, which we've lost in a lot of our communities, it's hard for that to ever happen. And like I tell people all the time, my biggest push outside of like my development, you know, in Baton Rouge, is like I tell people, get people like that's on this call, the Boo Milton's, Courtney, Sherin and Raina, getting you guys to move in like South Baton Rouge, Black neighborhoods. That's one of my big pushes. I'm not saying you guys particular, but you know, people who are in business are doing things because like, if we're going to empower the next generation and show the next generation examples of what they can be in the Black community, they're going to see it.
Yep.
All I see is, you know, the people that's made it out of my neighborhood are athletes and dope dealers. What else am I going to inspire to be?
Right.
Yep.
That's the reality of what we have, you know, in a lot of our, you know, Black neighborhoods that were once prestigious, Scotlandville, South Baton Rouge. So I tell people all the time, like, hey, like, How about sometimes, and then sometimes we go to neighborhoods, not just black people, where we're overpaid and we're uncomfortable because you have a Super Bowl party and your neighbor can call the cops on you. You know, so with that being said, it's like if we want to truly, you know, it's a lot easier if that kid wants to get in tech and he lives right down the street from you. He can say, hey, you know, partner down there. He's building all these tech companies. Go holler at him. I don't know tech. I don't know that. But your neighbor 4 houses down. And like until we start establishing some of that connectivity amongst our community again, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Nah, definitely, man. I feel it. Yeah, because it's a lot of work to be done, and I appreciate everyone on the call because, man, we all have a unique way in which we go about doing our work. We all have our own lanes. You know, I haven't heard much about competition, even though we live in a capitalism type society, you know, because there's something special and unique about the work that each one of us do. And, you know, and I love the fact that we embrace it for what it is and we go for it in the way that we envision it. So, Anthony, I want to thank you. Courtney, I want to thank you. Raina and Sherin, I want to thank you for, you know, the light that you guys shine in this city of Baton Rouge and surrounding areas and globally, to be honest, because it's a community as a whole. So, yeah, so we have time for maybe one more question. Does anybody have any closing advice that they want to give?
Let me throw something out. So one of the things that, you know, I think entrepreneurs, you know, and this probably goes across all entrepreneurs, no matter what you look like, you know, people wait too long to start something, right? People wait until I've got a perfect plan, or, you know, I've got the perfect this, or I got the perfect that, and I don't want to mess up. And, you know, there is no such thing as perfect. There is no better time to start your business than right now.
Yep.
Right. So take some action, get started right now, make some mistakes, figure that out. It'll make you a better entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Anybody else?
And find community. Find your community. Be intentional about finding that community. I think there was so much intentionality around what Anthony said as far as moving into a neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like that is hyper intentional because, again, if you want to be something, if you want people to aspire to be like you, or if you want to create change and you're walking by action and being that type of leader, you know, I think that's really important. So find the community of people where you can have tough conversations, impactful conversations, and strategic conversations, because you really are the company that you keep. Mm-hmm. And so be open to intersecting. You know what I mean? On this call today, Raina and I have a relationship with Milton. We have a relationship with Anthony. We will now develop one with you, Courtney and Genevieve. But it's really important because, again, that community piece. Mm-hmm. So find your community, build that ecosystem.
I'll tell you, entrepreneurship is tough. Building an ecosystem is tough. Many of the things we talked about on this call won't be easy. And one thing that pushes me forward every day, and I always try to think of purpose and impact. Like, you know, what's my purpose and what impact? Because every day, you know, all entrepreneurs, everyone on this call will tell you that some days it's like, man, it's tough. What am I doing? Why did I leave this day job? I was making this, you know, I was getting my check every week. Man, what was I thinking? But at the end of the day, I think it's really, and at the other part of it is some people look at it like, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to have a lot of money and I want to be rich. And it's like, at the end of the day, if that's going to be your driving force, at one point there's going to be a disconnect. It's not going to work. So I always tell people, like, try to understand, like, what your purpose and what impact you want to make, and let those be the driving factors around what you're doing. For me, you know, I look at it like I could have been in New York, San Francisco, working in private equity, living it up, taking good Instagram pictures. But at the end of the day, it was important for me. I went to McKinley Middle. It was important for me to come back to where I grew up and really have an impact. And I look at now, it's like daily I'm walking in my purpose. And, you know, some people, I tell people I'm developing, you know, the real estate is only the product, but the purpose and the impact is what is important to what I'm doing. And those are the driving factors. Because for me, like, real estate might be what's working now. It might be down the line I'm investing in tech. And at the end of the day, I do realize what resources I have. So for me, it's like, how can I take these resources from a San Fran, a New York, went to Stanford? There's not a lot of people that can bring these resources to Baton Rouge. So that's my purpose to do it. And like, I understand my purpose. So what I tell people is, understand, like, try to figure out what's your purpose and what impact you're trying, and let that be the drive behind what you want to do, rather than, hey, I want to be my own boss. I want to, make money. Those things are gonna run out, and if that's all you're focusing on, you're gonna be like, man, I'm tired of this. I ain't making enough money. You know what I mean? So I was telling you, I'm not sure. We're in a blessed position, but there's still 3 or 4 months. Sometimes I go without getting a paycheck because I'm gonna make sure everybody else is paid. Everybody else will catch their check on Friday, and that's my role on the team. So I think it's just important for you when you want to execute on something, understand like purpose, impact, and like building that team, and understand, like, just really understanding your role.
Right. Genevieve, do you have a last closing advice to give about what's been said?
I've just really enjoyed the conversation. I want to just recommend everybody get yourself educated. There's tons of resources out there. Make the intentional connections with the people that are here and with other people in the community, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Yeah. I like that. And I want to connect all of those thoughts because I really think that all of them really merge together, those last thoughts. And I feel like it actually can be like a flow chart of how to get the impact that you are ultimately looking for. First you got to start with the purpose. So, figuring out, your intentionality of why you want to do what you want to do to be the foundation of what you do, so we can be sustainable internally as before it could ever be sustainable externally. So definitely, starting with a purpose. But then after you figure out that purpose, you can't wait. You gotta start it. To what Courtney was saying, you gotta go for it. You gotta get it. And then after you've done it for yourself, you can't just start off saying, hey, look, I got a vision, I need y'all to jump in. I mean, you could, but what have you done for your vision yourself? So definitely don't wait, go for it. But then, like Raina and Sherin was saying, find the community to actually build upon that vision that you've already worked towards and started on. So where, you're not asking other people to take on a project that you just put thoughts on. So definitely, creating that community. And then once you continue on and start building from that with the purpose, with the action, with your community, then the impact comes. And you never know what that impact will be, because you can start off saying, okay, I want the impact to be this, but then it turns out to be a lot more. And then impact always turns out to be a lot more than what you ever intended it to be.
That's real.
So you killed the summary.
That was a great synopsis.
So yeah, man, impact is definitely universal. It trickles down from generation to generation. So I don't want anybody to feel like, okay, I did this once, and then now the impact is over outside of that moment. It's generational. We are a product of impact that has happened centuries before us. So definitely your impact that you create will definitely transcend generations and lifetimes after you. So thank you so much for all of the impact that you all are doing in these communities, for the city of Baton Rouge, for people 300 years from now, and in respect to people 300 years before us. So closing out this conversation, I definitely want to encourage everyone, if you enjoyed this conversation, then there's more to come. We have a lot of great panelists and moderators coming within the next few dates: September 22nd, September 23rd, September 24th. Those are the days that these conversations will continue with different leading entrepreneurs in the Black community. We have one of my great friends and mentors, Vitri Williams. I'm sorry, Wilson. I said Williams. I'm sorry. Vitri Wilson speaking on capital. We have Courtney Scott talking about networking, and a lot of great other people involved. So if you want to register, go to NexusLA.org. That's NexusLA.org/resolve. Also, to get connected right now at this moment, if you look at the bottom of the screen, I want to get connected. I want to get involved, or I need help. You can go down there. If you have resources, definitely, hey, share them. Let us know what's going on. If you want to get plugged in, click that call to action at the bottom of the green button that says, I want to get involved or I need help. Once again, I want to thank you to the sponsors that helped put this together, ExxonMobil and SLT Technology, Inc., for their generous support and making sure this happened. The hard work of Lauren Castine and Wendy Overton, the behind the scenes people to make this happen, and the whole Nexus Louisiana family for putting this conversation together and seeing the importance of this. Thank you so much to our panelists for your input in this discussion. And yeah, just thank you to everyone and have a great one. Would love to get connected. Please add your emails in the chat so we can get connected with you guys. I'll kind of solve for time, so you can go ahead and drop those emails. So yeah, I want to just thank everybody for this opportunity to just engage in some meaningful conversations because it's needed. So thank you so much, Nexus Louisiana, for making it happen. Thank you so much, panelists, and we appreciate and respect your time, and we're out.
Thank you all. Take care. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.